Most people move through the world like they're driving a car with the windows painted black and then wonder why they keep hitting the same damn wall. They train, they grind, they sweat, and then they repeat the same dysfunction for 5 straight years because they've never once stopped to actually look at how they move. If you cannot assess your own body, you cannot improve it. Not sustainably, not intelligently, not in a way that actually transforms you instead of recycling the same problems forever. Self-coaching isn't some mystical guru nonsense. It's a skill you should have been taught before you even picked up a barbell or went for a run. But instead, you were given exercises without context, workouts without purpose, and form cues without understanding. So you're still stuck guessing. And guesswork is how you build a body that breaks at the worst possible moment. Let me make it simple. Your movement tells a story. Every rep is data. Every stride is feedback. Every compensation is your nervous system sending up a flare saying, "Hey idiot, fix this before I do it for you." The hip shift, the collapsing ankle, the rotated pelvis, the arm swing that looks like you're trying to shake off a bee. None of that is random. That's your internal wiring showing you exactly where the power leaks are. But most people never listen. They think working harder is a solution. It's not. Working smarter requires you to actually interpret the signals your body is broadcasting at full volume. This is where physiology becomes your ally instead of your opponent. Movement isn't just a series of mechanical actions, it's a negotiation between your brain, your joints, your fascia, and the environment. The motor cortex fires a pattern, your proprioceptors give you feedback, and the cerebellum adjusts. Your muscles contract in a specific sequence, and then the whole orchestra repeats at high speed until it becomes a habit. So you're not fixing muscles, you're reorganizing software. When the software is corrupted, the hardware pays the price, and that's why tightness shows up, why power disappears halfway through a lift, and why your knees track like a drunk shopping cart. Your body is protecting you from your own inefficiency. And this is exactly why self-assessment matters more than chasing cues from strangers online. You're the only person who can feel what your system is doing. You're the only one who knows when something feels sloppy, unstable, or off. A coach can point out the big stuff, but those little micro signals, the subtle shifts, internal hesitations, the moment a joint feels like it's lying to you, that's data only you can detect, and if you ignore that data, you'll be training blind. So let's talk about some of the core assessment skills, the one in your workbook that actually build independence instead of dependence. First is baseline awareness, the ability to stand still and actually feel what your body is doing. It sounds stupidly simple, which is exactly why most people skip it. But if you can't feel where your weight sits in your feet, how your pelvis stacks on your ribs, or whether, but if you cannot feel where your weight sits in your feet, or how your pelvis stacks on your ribs, or whether your glutes are even awake, you have no business lifting heavy or running fast. Awareness is the entry point to strength. Without it, everything becomes guesswork and compensation. Next is positional integrity. Not perfect form, that's cosplay. Next is positional integrity. I mean the honest alignment that lets you generate force without leaking power or stressing the wrong tissues. Every joint has a neutral zone where it operates best. If your squat starts with your knees caving, your hinge begins with lumbar flexion, or your press opens with rib flare, you're signaling poor integration before the work even starts. A good self-coach doesn't just notice bad positions, they ask why they're happening. Are your adductors dominating? Are your lats asleep? Is your core bracing or just pretending? Then comes pattern recognition. This is where self-coaching becomes a superpower. You're looking for patterns that repeat. Does your left knee collapse every time you descend? Does your right hip hike on every run? Does your spine rotate more on one side? These patterns tell you where to investigate. They reveal asymmetries, motor control deficits, and stability gaps. And once you know the pattern, the solution becomes a hell of a lot easier to find. You also need load awareness, the ability to notice when weight changes, your movement. Anyone can move cleanly at body weight, but the moment you add load, your true mechanics show up. Self-coaching means asking what breaks me when I add 10%? What compensations appear under fatigue? Where do I lose control first? It's not failure, it becomes a diagnostic tool. Load exposes what your ego hides. And none of this works without some level of brutal honesty. You cannot self-coach if you constantly lie to yourself. If you're convinced your squat is amazing while your hips shift like tectonic plates and your knees wobble like an inflatable tube man, you're not self-coaching, you're just fantasizing about yourself. Improvement requires reality and not delusion. The body doesn't care about your pride, it cares about physics, leverage, force, and patterning. And the psychology matters too. Self-coaching requires metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. You have to notice your own beliefs, your assumptions, your blind spots. Are you rushing reps because you're impatient? Are you loading weight because you want validation? Are you avoiding certain movements because they expose weakness you don't want to face? I'm speaking to you, overhead squats. Movement reveals your psychology just as much as your physiology. Fixing one requires acknowledging the other. In the underpinning of all this is a basic personal philosophy of sovereignty. No coach should own your progress. No program should own your intelligence, and you're not building dependence, you're building autonomy. The entire point of your training is to become someone who doesn't need constant correction, someone who can identify their own errors, correct them, and grow without outsourcing their agency. That's what the workbook teaches within Forge Grit. Not exercises, but awareness. Not drills, but decision making. Not routines, but literacy. Somewhere in all this is a joke. Because people who spend thousands on coaches still don't know how to feel their own bodies. They can follow instructions but not interpret signals. They can execute reps but not understand them. They're outsourcing their consciousness and then wonder why progress stalls the moment the coach is not watching. Self-coaching is not anti-coach, it's pro-competence. A good coach teaches you how to think, not just how to move. Your body is constantly giving you intel. Every rep, every stride, every shift is a message. The question is whether or not you're listening. If not, start now though. Take 5 minutes and run through your own audit. Feel your feet, track your breathing, move your joints slowly. Notice where your system hesitates. Notice the patterns that repeat. Notice the ones that break under load. That should be a roadmap. You don't improve by hoping, you improve by assessing. You improve by translating your body's language into action. Once you can do that, you're no longer at the mercy of random programs or random cues or random advice. You're finally driving with the windows clear. You're finally training with clarity instead of noise. You're finally coaching the one athlete you can never outsource, yourself.